Tenebrae is the Latin word for shadows. In the Christian tradition, it refers to that moment of Jesus' death when a shadow fell across the earth. For centuries, Tenebrae has described the monastic late night and early morning services held during the last 3 days of Holy Week. These next 3 days are an intense story in which it all comes together sometime in the night on Saturday when Jesus crosses over from death to life. We know how the story will end.
But for those who first lived them, these 3 days were not about anything coming together. They were about things falling apart. Jesus' death was, to those early followers' minds, the end of all they had been working towards, all they had believed in. It was a death of all their hopes and dreams. And they entered into the time of separation with great trepidation and fear for their own lives, and doubt as to the power and importance of the ministry to which they had just witnessed. But times of deepest despair call for the greatest hopes we can muster to come to the forefront.
If there is anyone left who still thinks faith means life is going to be an unchallenged walk into inevitable success and daily pleasure, that person has not been paying attention. God chooses to work through actual human beings, not magical paragons of strength and perfection. Jesus rises from the dead with his wounds still weeping. It is how the followers were able to recognize him, through his wounds and the sharing of the bread in the sacred communal meal.
Tonight, we honor the ancestors of the faith and the story they lived, with a stronger understanding and attachment to it than ever before. So may these words tonight mirror your own journey through doubt and sadness, with the promised hope of Easter still alive in your heart, as the single candle that burns after the world as we know it has come crashing down.
Tonight we remember they gathered together for the Passover celebration and for what would be their last night together before the great betrayal.
We remember that he was handed over to the authorities to be condemned to die, that the crowds that had once cried his name in hope and admiration now called for his crucifixion and torture.
We remember that some of those closest to him ran farthest, fastest, and that in the end it was his own brothers in faith who denied him and betrayed him.
We remember that he was beaten and flogged, stripped bare and lynched by an oppressive empire and a power-hungry people. Afraid that his messages of hope and help, good news and love was too beautiful to bear. And so they did the worst damage they could possibly think to do, believing that his messages of peace and love would die along with him. They were wrong.
Tonight we bring our own brokenness, our own shame and sorrow to this table. We accept this sacred meal as the most symbolic commitment we can make to live and believe in a world where bread shared and hearts broken open for one another is the true path to the kingdom of God. That the cup of God's covenant of undying love and life everlasting is poured out for every one of us, no matter who we are or where we are on life's journey.
We remember the sorrow. We remember the separation. We remember the fear and anxiety and anger. And we surrender our hearts to our God, who loves us so much that they are willing to bear our burdens and take on our terror, with the promise that one day, very soon, we will see, know, and understand deep in our hearts that death will not have the last word. Tonight, we remember.